first step of a literature review involves the identification of various published and unpublished materials that are available on a topic of interest, and gaining, of course, access to those. If we look at data sources, again, we have to keep this in mind that the quality of literature review depends on a very cautious selection of reading of books, academic and professional journals, reports, theses, conference proceedings, unpublished manuscripts, and so forth. So academic books and journals are in general the most useful resource or sources of information. However, I must state here that other sources such as professional journals, reports, and even newspapers, they may also be very valuable because let's be very clear that they can provide us with specific real-world information about markets, about industries, or even companies. Hence, as a rule, you will need to use a combination of information resources. The precise combination of resource again depends on the nature and the objective of your research project. To begin with, let's discuss textbooks. Textbooks, I personally feel, are a useful source of theory in specific area. An advantage of textbooks is that they can cover a broad range of topics, and what's more is that textbooks can cover a topic much more thoroughly than articles can. So textbooks, they do offer a good starting point for anyone in terms of when you're thinking of finding more the basics and then moving on to a more detailed source such as the journal articles or unpublished materials. So the downside of textbook is that they tend to be less up to date as compared to journals. Journals, on the other hand, both academic and professional journals are very important sources of up-to-date information. And if we look at the articles in academic journals, they have generally been peer reviewed. What it means is that the articles have been subject to the scrutiny of experts in the same field before being accepted and finally being published. You take the example of review articles, meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, of course, is a type of data analysis in which results of several studies are combined and then they are analyzed as if they were the results of one large study. So what we see is that these review articles, meta-analysis, they are very useful because they provide an overview of all the important research in a specific area. So research articles are important for empirical research, describing one of few related studies, all right? The conceptual background section of any research article, if you see, it provides a compact overview of relevant literature. So research articles, they also provide a very detailed description of the purpose of the study, the methods that have been used, and of course the results of the study. So articles in any professional journal are a valuable resource of recent developments in the field and facts and figures that are there. So we need to provide the relevant information that could eventually help us clarify the relevance of a problem that exists. Now, with regards to journals and textbooks, the other sources that we generally use in carrying out our literature review is taking help from thesis. Now, MS, PhD thesis, generally PhD thesis, we know that PhD theses often contain an exhaustive review of literature in a specific area, and most PhD include several empirical chapters, and these chapters, they often have the same structure and characteristics as academic journal articles, right? Apart from thesis, we also take help from conference proceedings. Proceedings can be very useful in providing the latest research or research that has not, yet been published. So conference proceedings are very up to date, and for this reason, this information source is quite valuable. So if you are working in a relatively new or in an area which is still developing or a domain which is very niche, not every conferences do help, but we need to keep in mind that not every manuscript presented at a particular conference is going to be publishable in any academic journal. So you must be keeping this in mind, that you really have to critically assess the quality of this information. Then, as I said earlier, unpublished manuscripts are also some of the key sources for us to consider, especially when we're working on our literature review. The APA, they define unpublished manuscript as the information source that is not officially released by an individual or a publishing house or any other company. So again, you can use it, but as I said, you have to be very critical in terms of assessing the quality of that unpublished manuscript. It can help you for sure, but again, you have to be cautious. Then, of course, we have reports. Government departments and corporation commissions, they carry out large amount of research. Their published findings provide a very useful source with regards to certain specific markets, industries, or even company information. So, of course, we can use them, and they are generally considered as very reliable. Newspapers, again, newspapers provide up-to-date information, business information specifically I'm talking about, and they are a useful source of specific market, industry, or company information. But then again, you need to keep this in mind, that opinions in newspapers are not always unbiased. So there's an element of biasness. Then, of course, since currently we rely too much on the internet, so the amount of information that can be found on the World Wide Web is gigantic. It's enormous. So you can search for books, journals, journal articles, conference proceedings, as well as for specialized data such as company publications and reports. So the number of newspaper, magazines in general that is available electronically, the numbers are skyrocketing. There's too much of information. But what we need to keep a note of is that the internet is unregulated and it's not monitored. So, moreover, developing an internet page is comparatively very easy as what we see today, and of course it's very cheap as well. So for this reason, the internet provides exceptional challenge, number of challenges in determining the usefulness and reliability of the information. Search engines such as Google and Google Scholar specifically can help you find relevant information, and I think most of us, we use Google Scholar, and in fact it has become more like a home page for most of us. So you can identify literature such as peer review paper, thesis, books, abstracts, articles from academic publisher, universities, and other scholarly organizations, and that can actually help you proceed further with your literature review.